Scientists have found a bird-like skull from a reptile that existed in the Triassic age, 100 million years before birds evolved, per a new study. The newly discovered species is called Avicranium rhinostoi. Scientists used modern computer modeling technology to render a representation of the full reptile using just the skull. Why it matters: this is the first time we've seen a bird-like head from an animal that lived this long ago. It's a striking example of convergent evolution, separated by time. Other examples of convergent evolution include wings in bats and birds, and color in penguins and killer whales. Good deal is for TBHS makers. This is a good deal. The small company, based in Oakland, California, has spent the last 5 years building several products and apps with varying success and was in the process of shutting down when it debuted TBH, according to a Facebook post by co-founder Nikita Beer. Terms of the acquisition were not disclosed. Disclosure: the author of this story went to college with TBH's Nikita Beer. Key takeaways: the most visits from 2006 to 2014 to 457,492 were caused by guns classified as other, but handguns were the single most deadly gun type. Assaults typically involved handguns and shotguns, compared to hunting rifles and military rifles, which caused higher shares of accidental injuries or deaths. Of the 190,396 people who visited the in handgun-related incidents, 55% were victims of assault. Shotguns caused 41,500 visits, of which 47% were related to assaults. What to expect: in 120 days all federal agencies will be required to deploy HTTPS for its websites, and in 90 days they'll be required to roll out beefed-up email security. The backstory: this isn't the first time the government has ordered the adoption of these enhanced measures. The Obama administration rolled out a similar directive in 2015, but 2 years later only about a quarter of agency sites support encryption. Kisa, a startup that's been working on a chip for transferring large data without Wi-Fi or wires, has filed a trade secret theft lawsuit against Essential Products, the smartphone startup led by Android co-founder Andy Rubin, according to Reuters. Kisa alleges that the two companies were in conversations about Essential potentially using its technology for 10 months before it decided to use a competing chip from Cibeam, a division of Lattice Semiconductor. However, Essential's implementation uses a lot of the techniques Kisa has developed, says the company. Essential Products declined to comment to Reuters as it hasn't been served yet. Old Connection: Essential was co-founded by Andy Rubin, who co-created Android. Kisa is in part funded by Tony Fadell, who first rose to prominence as the godfather of Apple's iPod, which led to the iPhone. When Elwood Adams Hardware Store first opened its doors, the best-selling items were clock bells and pinions. That was 1782. Now, on October 20th, the oldest continuously run hardware store in America will close its doors for good, CBS reports, a victim of Amazonization. The big picture: Elwood Adams, established in Worcester, Massachusetts, survived 2 wars on U.S. soil, the Great Depression and the Great Recession. But those were less damaging than the shift to online shopping. I think Amazon or the larger big box stores have probably just been too much to compete against, city manager Ed Augustus told CBS. The demise of Elwood Adams illustrates the profound challenge to brick-and-mortar retail, and another hit to the mom-and-pop shops that once dominated Main Street. Though the SP 500 was in the black on Monday, stocks of retail companies fell broadly, with shares of Nordstrom, Sears, and cosmetics vendor Ulta all losing favor with investors during trading hours. Nordstrom shares lost more than 5% after the company announced it was suspending efforts to take itself private after struggling to find interested investors. Sears tumbled nearly 12% on the news that Bruce Berkowitz, one of its largest investors and a close associate of CEO Eddie Lampert, would be leaving the board of directors. Ulta lost 2.5% of its value, following a decision by Goldman Sachs to downgrade the stock, citing slowing growth in the beauty products space. Other analysts have warned that Amazon threatens cosmetics retailers like Ulta and Sephora. Why it matters: Sears' struggles have been long-standing, but both Nordstrom and Ulta have been at various points cited as traditional retailers immune to Amazon's online power, and poised to avoid the struggles of the broader industry. President Trump during a press conference today: we now actually have military distributing food and PR, something that, really, they shouldn't have to be doing. Rep. Nydia Velasquez's DPR warned that this could become another Flint in an interview with CNN. We're talking about contaminants, toxins, material, oil that are in this water. You're telling me that this water can be used as drinking water? I don't think so. The latest on what we know from Puerto Rico, per FEMA and the PR government site Boots on the Ground, more than 20,000 federal civilian personnel and military service members, including more than 1,700 FEMA personnel, are on the ground in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. State help: 31 U.S. states are helping in PR, and 20 in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Electricity: 13.7% of the island has power, up from 9% Friday. Roughly 43% of cell towers have been restored. Food: approximately 87% of grocery stores are open, 396 of 456. Gas: roughly 79% of retail gas stations are operational, 872 of 1,100. Shelter: 5,037 people remain in shelters across the island, down from 5,602 Friday. 105 shelters are open and operating. Transportation: only 392 miles of Puerto Rico's 5,073 miles of roads are open. All commercial airports and federally maintained ports are open, some with restrictions. Water and waste: approximately 72% of Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority (PRASA) customers have potable water, up from 63% Friday. 56% of wastewater treatment plants are working on generator power, the same as Friday. Medical care: 95%. 6,467 hospitals are open, down from 97% Friday. Many remain on backup power systems, and are without air conditioning, 95%. 4,648 of dialysis centers are open, the same as Friday. Banks: 50% of bank branches, 157 of 313 are open and operating. Go deeper: the storm has passed, but Puerto Rico's health faces prolonged recovery. Stat News sending relief by air and sea to Puerto Rico from the Bronx. NY Times: Puerto Rico struggles with massive environmental crisis. Washington Post: this post is being updated with the latest information on the Puerto Rico recovery efforts. Tax reform: I would very much like to see it be done this year, but don't forget, it took years for the Reagan administration to get tax reform done. I could say the same for healthcare. Healthcare: we're getting close. We feel confident we have the votes. I feel Republican and Democrats are, as we speak, working very hard for an intermediate healthcare plan, a short-term plan. Judges: we will set records for the number of judges. Well, confirm, we have a tremendous number of judges under review by the Senate. The level of quality is extraordinary. We're getting really great reviews. Go deeper: Trump privately predicts he will appoint 4 Supreme Court justices. Length of investigation: they ought to get to the end of it, because I think the American public is sick of it. Will you consider firing Special Counsel Robert Mueller? No, not at all. U.S. soldiers killed in Niger: I will at some point during the period of time call the parents and the families. If you look at President Obama and other presidents, most of them didn't make calls. A lot of them didn't make calls. When asked a follow-up question on whether the Obama claim was true, Trump said he didn't know if Obama made such calls. Former Obama aides on Twitter said Trump's statement was false. News reports from the time show Obama making such gestures. Here's a story about Obama visiting a military base for the return of soldiers killed in Afghanistan. Fighting in Iraq: we don't like the fact that they are clashing. We're not taking sides, but we don't like the fact that they are clashing. On illnesses of U.S. government personnel in Havana: I do believe Cuba is responsible. We now actually have military distributing food, something that, really, they shouldn't have to be doing. NFL: it is very disrespectful to our country when they take a knee. The American people are very angry. It is highly disrespectful. They shouldn't do it. Bipartisanship: I hope to have a relationship with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, but if we don't, we don't. Bannon challenging Trump on primary candidates: I like Steve a lot. Steve is doing what Steve thinks is the right thing. Clinton 2020: oh, I hope she runs. Hillary, please run. Sexual assault allegations made against him resurfacing amid Harvey Weinstein fallout: all I can say is it's totally fake news, it's totally made up stuff. On Tom Marino nomination for drug czar: we are going to look into the report. We are going to be looking into Tom. We are going to take it very seriously, Trump said following the 60 Minutes Washington Post report on the opioids. Trump also said he'll declare the opioid crisis a national emergency next week. On his relationship with Trump: we have the same agenda. We've been friends and acquaintances for a long time. We talk frequently. We don't give you a readout every time we talk, but we talk frequently about the issues before us. Bannon challenging GOP on their endorsements of primary candidates: our operating approach will be to support our incumbents, and in open seats, to help nominate people who can actually win in November. That's the way you keep a governing majority. judges the single most significant thing this president has done to change America is the appointment of Neil Gorsuch.